Good morning, everyone. This is Biz Chicks TV. This is the place where you can find tips and tools to help you do business better. We're here to help you run a profitable business that's fun to run and to take the hassle out of your hustle. And today is Thursday, and on Thursday we're all about happy, healthy thoughts and habits with Robin and friends. Hi, Robin. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Good,
Good morning,
good.
everybody. Thank you, Francine, in the background. Okay, so I am so excited to introduce Jill Weston, our guest for today. We haven't seen Jill, I think, since I want to say November. I don't know,
You
huh?
really been
Jill?
that long? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it looks like I have it logged in as November 14th was the last time we
Wow.
got to see Jill. So we're very excited to see her. She's back from Bali, right?
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, Jill she teaches students and people about the classical yoga nidra, which is a gentle and profound meditation practice. And she's going to
Mm.
tell us more about this today, which is really exciting because we haven't talked about it in a little bit. She owns a studio called Our Breathing Space in Elk Grove, California, and she teaches students and teachers about Yoga Nidra. And I'm going to go ahead and just let her introduce herself, give us a little bit more background about yourself, Jill, if you want to, and then we'll get right into it.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, I am coming to you from Elk Grove, California, which is near Sacramento. And thank you, everybody, if you are on live or coming on the replay. And I actually am going to talk today about our own personal stories and scripts that get in the way of being our best selves. And my business Breathing Space started out of that story. So as I do the introduction as to who I am and why I have that business, it will fold into the story of Yoga Nidra. And I do have a place called Breathing Space, and there was a specific reason I named it that. I wanted to give people literally space when I meet with them to reach their goals, to be their best selves, to get rid of the stories in their heads as well as the chaos. And then in addition, I wanted the physical space, which is a curious story that I'll tell in a minute, so that people could physically come in and find some respite, some calmness. And I also rent the space out to other practitioners, also business people, if you want to have a book club meeting, if you just need some space that's quiet and introspective. So Breathing Space came about to offer services to people to help them understand themselves better, to calm their chaos. And then I have the physical space where people can come in and help each other out. Any questions about that, or do you want to get right into the subject matter?
All I can say is I've only been able to do the Yoga Nidra once, and now that my life is kind of settled down a little bit, it's my intention to do it at least once a week, because I remember it lasted like 3 days.
Yes.
The calmness lasted so long. It was just one. Anyway,
Yes.
I'm going to come back, Jill. So we'll have to talk about the schedule later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And remind me, if you will, we'll kind of go through the how, what, where with Yoga Nidra. I'll get into the stories, but remind me, because there's a lot to cover, to come back to the results and how long the sensation lasts and why it lasts that long.
Well, I want to say that space is so calming. I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it to our viewers. If you have not tried it, you need to really.
Thank you. And part of the goal, and I'll touch on a lot of this through the presentation today, is it was designed purposefully to relax down the nervous system. So very often we go into spaces, including our homes, doctors' offices, banks, and not every business can do this, but it's designed specifically. There's not a lot to look at. There's not a lot to listen to. It's in a quiet place. The colors are very muted. When I first opened, people were very, very sweet to me. And they said, we're going to bring you pictures and posters. And, can you put up all this information about our businesses? And we're going to bring you Buddhas and angels and all this colorful things. And I said, all that's really great. But I really want people to walk in and visually not take in a lot, not hear a lot, and not be impacted by a lot of stimulation. So I'll talk later about our nervous systems, but very often people come in, they're like, I'm coming because I have panic attacks. I'm coming because I'm nervous. They're throwing open the door. And I say this humbly, but they take a step in, and without me saying anything, they automatically take a deep breath and they'll look around. They're like, oh, wow, this feels relaxing. And it happens even if I'm not there. That's why I said I'm humble about it. If there are other practitioners there or people having business meetings, even if it's a business meeting where people are interacting and the idea is to have conversation, people always remark that it's a very quieting, soothing space, which can be recreated in your own home and other businesses. So thanks for mentioning that. Are we ready to start?
I think we're ready to start. I'm excited.
Okay. So today will be a little bit of Yoga Nidra 101. And I say 101 in the sense that there's a lot of history to the practice of Yoga Nidra. There are a lot of, there's science to this. We're not going to go too much into that today. So some of my teachers, I think, are out there watching, and also students. We're not going to do a lot about the background, because I want a little more practical application. So again, don't get thrown off if I'm not quoting a lot of science or going too deep. We can do that again later if that's of interest. So we'll cover the basics of Yoga Nidra, what the practice is, how it can benefit you, how it works, and then I want to spend time focusing on how it helps to offset your story, the story that you may have had from a young child, the story that you develop as a business owner, a story you might develop maybe if you're diagnosed with a disease or sickness. To start off, however, and again, whether you're live or on the replay, I'd like you to participate. Go ahead and close your eyes for a moment if that's comfortable for you, or you can give a soft gaze at the computer, paper, or if you're good at typing as you're doing this, type into the comments. Go ahead and write down all the things that are on your mind right now. Just jotting down a few things, all the things that are on your mind. And we've been known to have 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. And I figured out, I think with my math, that's about 6,000 an hour. I didn't break down how many per minute. So even as I'm talking on purpose, some of you may be saying, oh, you're distracting me, Jill. I'm doing that on purpose. There are probably more things that come to mind as I ask you to write this down. And then take a moment and write down all the things that you're telling yourself about what's on your mind. And it might look like things or sound like things like, I'm too busy to watch this podcast. I just want to hear about the Yoga Nidra. I hear my dog barking in the background. How long can I stay on the call? All the things that are on your mind and everything that you're telling yourself. I'm too busy. I don't know if this is going to be worth my time. I'm not smart enough to understand what Yoga Nidra is. We'll come back to anything that's in the comments. But I start with that because that helps frame the understanding of why Yoga Nidra can be helpful. And again, I started with all the thoughts that are in our mind. So when you're trying to focus on something, when you're trying to make decisions, think of your brain as being helpful, but very, very full. And it's full of current thoughts, current events, current things that you're taking in. And it's also full of past thoughts, past experiences, and your thoughts about those experiences. So as I was sitting here, ready to go live, I've done this a couple times, and you guys in the background are always so good about making me feel comfortable, but automatically I started having thoughts. what if my computer doesn't work? Yes, I tested it last night, but invariably, you turn it on, it doesn't work. I knew the sunlight would be different coming in, but as I turned on my computer, I said to myself, well, everything looks different. Of course it looks different. I practiced last night. It looks different in the daytime. Mm-hmm. So in order to come on and to be relaxed and deliver my message and be helpful to people, I had to clear my mind. I had to acknowledge the stories. So Yoga Nidra helps you by peeling off those limiting thoughts and having you identify first what they are. You can't undo, I don't really like the word fix, but you can't fix what you don't know about. You can't address what you don't know about. So sometimes we're trying to create healthy habits. We are trying to maintain healthy habits, and we don't know what's in the way. So Yoga Nidra helps you know what's in the way of your best life, what's in the way of you reaching your goals. Yoga Nidra itself, yoga means union or yoke, bringing together the mind and the body. And Nidra is a Sanskrit or ancient Indian word for sleep. Now, what's curious, in yoga, you are not doing yoga postures. So yoga asana, that's what you see sometimes of people doing certain postures, balancing on one leg, perhaps doing headstands. In Yoga Nidra, there's no movement. There's no yoga movement. And in Nidra, in the style I practice, you also don't sleep. There are practices of Yoga Nidra where it's okay to go ahead and go to sleep and your subconscious is working. So in Yoga Nidra, what I tell people in my very quick explanation is you bring a pillow and you bring a blanket and you lay down. And that's all you really have to do except for staying awake. And then the person, in case me or my teachers that are out there and many other different practitioners, we will lead you, excuse me, with our voice through a guided body scan. And we start out with the thumb, the fingers, we go all the way through the body. And during that process, you start to recognize where you may be holding stress in your body and where you're holding thoughts about that stress or thoughts about sensations. Then we move into, a state where you are in theta and alpha brainwave states. And again, there's science to that. Just know it's a deeper state than what we're in now. So right now you're in beta. You're listening to me. You're thinking about other things. You're very, very conscious. You may be thinking about going to the store later. You may be thinking about working on your business. It's a very active brain. In any type of yoga nidra, your brain starts to go into theta and alpha waves. And for the practical understanding, it's simply a meditative state. You are still awake, but you start to become more creative and you let go of all those very, very clear thoughts. So what we started with was, what are all the things that are on your mind, all the things that you're telling yourself. And what's beautiful is in the Yoga Nidra state, you move away from those conscious thoughts. The thoughts like, I'm not smart enough to run a business. I could never go on biz chicks like Jill does. I don't know how to do something. I'm too heavy. I don't weigh enough. I'm not good enough. I have too much ego. All those things that either someone has told you or you have told yourself. In Yoga Nidra, we start to let go of those stories and our scripts and limiting beliefs. So again, a simple practice where you lay down, and you're laying down so that you don't fall over. In regular meditation, you would, or you can sit up, but in Yoga Nidra, your body gets so relaxed. You move away from fight or flight, and your nervous system relaxes down to the point that if you were sitting up, you would start to feel limp. Your body might start to sway or move around. So we have you laying down on a couch, laying down in a lounge chair, or laying on the floor. And you move into those theta and alpha brainwave states where you're hyper relaxed rather than being hyper active. And the benefits are you gain clarity, you gain focus. For some people, their very first time, they may not feel anything really profound, although many people do, but they will note, they'll say, gosh, I feel like I've been asleep. I feel like I've had a nap. And the goal in Yoga Nidra is to observe what's going on. You don't have to fix anything. That actually comes kind of naturally. And it teaches you to respond and to not react. So picture the list of things that you wrote down, everything that's on your mind. And if you were to go into a relaxed state, all of those issues, that entire list just goes by the wayside. It doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear. And different parts of your brain and your relaxed body have a chance to interact. There's a chance to address those stories. And I'll share some of those stories later. So the benefits are to the physical system. Right now, people are concerned about their immune systems. It's flu season. There are other things going on. It's really great for the immune system. Also really great for your emotions. And again, helps you address those conscious and subconscious messages. So I want to stop there. Again, we're about 15 minutes in or so of giving the basics of Yoga Nidra. Again, it's a practice where you bring a pillow and a blanket. You're laying down, so there's no movement. It's easy to access for everyone. And you're simply looking through your body, in your mind. You're making a verbal picture. So I'll say, take your attention to your hand. Then start to notice your fingers, notice your palm, and you're basically doing a body scan to see where you're holding stress. And it gives you a chance to observe that, to observe your observations and thoughts about that. Move into a relaxed state, and then you set what we call an intention. The fancy word for it is sankalpa, and it simply means that you're setting a resolve. You're setting an intention. And I encourage people to just visualize a normal day and how they want to feel, maybe something they want to achieve. And in this sankalpa, in setting that intention, once you're relaxed again, you're getting away from the limiting thoughts. Now, setting an intention, setting a resolve doesn't mean, oh, I want the red Ferrari, or I want to lose 90 pounds. You can do that, but it's a deeper practice where you're setting a resolve to be in a mindset that all those things happen naturally. So maybe your resolve is, I want to feel more confident about myself. Maybe the resolve is simply changing your story. So it's giving up life patterns that are not helpful versus material things. And again, the goal is to notice what you're feeling. There's no need to fix it in the session, but when people are done with the session, they do feel a sense of relief or something different. So I'm going to take a break and see if there's any comments, any questions, and then I'll briefly talk a little bit more, focus a little bit more on the stories and the scripts in our life.
Okay, I was so relaxed. That was fun. Okay.
Terry, you're always good about just listening to my voice, regardless of what I'm saying.
I know. Like, okay. I did write down the things you asked us to write down.
Okay.
And I think I have a better understanding of Yoga Nidra now. So my question is, how, I think I know, but how is it different from physical yoga and Nidra yoga? Is it about the blankets? About the
Yeah, excellent question. So in what we call yoga asana, and again, we don't have to get too fancy, but in what most people think of as yoga, you're going to go into a yoga studio, go out into your backyard, you're going to stretch, you're going to balance.
Yes.
Yoga asana, done originally especially, was to prepare to get into a meditative state so that people could sit cross-legged, that they could have an awareness of their body to go into a deep state of meditation. Yoga asana practices now are partly They can be stress reducing. We tend to think of them more as a little bit of more of a workout or stretching. So there's a
Yeah.
very physical element to that, and there's movement. In yoga nidra, you are laying still so that you can bring attention to your body and then actually go inward. So in yoga, you might be noticing your postures. You're having a conversation with yourself sometimes of, wow, I'm not balancing. And the goal is to feel your body physically and to have a little bit of, I don't really want to say a fitness element, but there is an element sometimes of cardio work, or there's an element of stretching muscles. But it too is a practice of starting to look inward. We just don't always do it that way nowadays. And in yoga nidra, the reason I had you write that list, you're really wanting to move away from the list of things to do, all the things that you were telling yourself about yourself, things that maybe your parents, your caregiver, even things that coworkers have told you, even things that, you know, when a car pulls up alongside you and I hate to say cuts you off in traffic, gives you the finger, or someone looks at you in a certain way, we automatically start telling ourselves something. And that takes away from our purpose. It takes away from what's going on. So in any practice, in this case, yoga nidra, when you go inside yourself, and there's a fancy word called pratyahara, it means literally you are not listening to all the outside influences. You are not even listening maybe to the radio. You are not, somebody looks at you in a certain way and you don't react to that. You are going inside to what you know. So in a physical yoga practice, that can happen, and that was the origin. But it's become more of just movement. Maybe you're looking yourself in the mirror. You're even thinking about, wow, my yoga pants don't match my yoga top. That other person is sweating on me. I'm not balancing like that person. That's that busy, busy mind. So in yoga nidra, it takes out that element of standing, and the purpose is take your attention inside and to notice what your thoughts are, and then to move away from those thoughts and go back to really our original thought. So an example, you know, and I said I was going to share a story. I didn't have a lot of stories so much growing up that kept me from doing things, but there was something that was curious about yoga nidra. So I went to the yoga nidra training having never practiced yoga nidra. And people who know me, especially then, that was 7 years ago, I have always been very practical, very analytical. Before I do anything, I'm researching it, because I had that story of, is it worth my time? Am I going to be able to learn it? Should I spend the money? Is this a good fit for me? Some of the questions I always used to ask, I couldn't know analytically, but that just worked for me. So I go to this training at a yoga ashram that I had never, ever been to, had never, ever heard of. I still do not remember. I honestly do not remember where I got the flyer for the training. I paid a fair amount of money, 4 days away from my home, sleeping there and studying there to do something I knew nothing about. So people who know me like, that's not Jill Weston. My trip to Bali, I researched, I wrote notes. I was getting not the best deal, but I'm like, it's probably going to rain. So I need to make sure that I'm staying at a place that's really comfortable if it's raining the whole time and I can't go outside. You know, the coronavirus hit. I'm on the computer looking at, can I get back to the States? So again, go back 7 years. I just remember going online and paying for this course. I had never, ever experienced yoga nidra, yet I was going to train in it. I practiced physical yoga for 18 years. I still practice. In those 18 years, I have never gone to a teacher training. I thought about it and I just love being a student. Yet I go to do this teacher training about something I know nothing about. Loved the experience the first time, came home and said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm not really a teacher. And what I'm getting to is I had a story about my voice. So I used to work in an environment where I had to tell people, I worked in a prison system. I used to tell people and use my voice all day long to give instructions, to stop fights, to work with staff. I was a supervisor. Then I went for 4 years to a training academy. And I taught people every day for 4 years. I stood up in front of people and talked. You know what my story was? about Yoga Nidra? Well, I love it, but I don't have a good voice. My voice is boring. My voice is monotone. I'm not funny. I don't have a musical quality in my voice. I don't think I can lead Yoga Nidra. That was my story. I wanted to do it. And I also had a story of, yeah, but I'm not like the other yoga teachers. I don't think I can help people get better. I don't have that quality of being a kind of a therapist or a helper. You know, some people use the word healer because I had this story. No one had ever told me. I don't know where it came from, but I had this thought of, I don't think my voice is interesting. Fast forward, and it's still a little difficult for me to own, and I do my Yoga Nidra on this. People say, oh my gosh, your voice is amazing. Oh my gosh, your voice is soothing. In the prison system, people came to me and said, we can't get this young person to listen to us. I can't get this staff member to listen. Would you go and talk to them? And I always said, sure, and it worked. I had someone come to me, excuse me, and they said, you know, we don't have hostage situations. Would you go to training and become our hostage negotiator? I said, I don't know why you're asking me, but okay. So I didn't hear the messages that people gave me about you're calm, you can resolve situations. I trained horses a long time ago, and people used to call me the horse whisperer before there was the horse whisperer. Yet my story, wherever it came from, was so strong of, I'm just who I am. I don't really calm people down. I don't have the voice for that. So I learned quickly through doing Yoga Nidra and going within, I'm like, I can't deny what people say. And hopefully it's coming across in a humble way. When people I don't know say, oh my gosh, your voice was helpful for me in just 30 seconds. Your voice is helpful for me when I call and I have something on my mind. So Yoga Nidra helped me peel off that limiting thought. And now I run a business where I'm able to help people just using my voice and the power of this Yoga Nidra practice. So what I suggest to people is, you know, figure out what story you're telling yourself, turn the pages, rewrite the story, take a book and tear up the pages and figure out what it is you're to do. Figure out what are those stories that keep coming through. Going back to when we started, look at all the things that you wrote down that are on your mind. And more importantly, what are you telling yourself about that? So if it's, I got to pick up the kids, I got to pick up this, I have to do this, I have to make these calls, but it's probably not going to go very well. I'm so busy. You know, sometimes I wish I didn't have to pick up the kids. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to do this. And there's a story behind that story. Well, I'm sure everybody, you know, on Instagram, it sure looks like everybody else has time to do this.
Yeah.
Well, you know, look at what, like Terry's sitting there cool and calm running this show. Okay. Terry's heartbeat might be going really fast, or maybe she's calm with it. But it's all these things that we tell ourselves and we don't realize that we're doing it. And that's the power of the Yoga Nidra. It helps you slow down and observe. People come out of Yoga Nidra and they'll say, wow, I figured out the source of my anxiety. And you don't do any of this out loud. Again, you set your intention. I have you visualize yourself completely healthy, completely well without those stories. But people will say things like, you know, I realized that the pain in my leg isn't as strong as I thought it was. It's really just kind of a sensation. And I've made up a story about it. I had a woman who had cancer. I say that because when she came in, she did have cancer. We did not cure her cancer. Okay, I'm not a medical doctor. This doesn't cure anything. But what she talked about was that she visualized her cancer cells smiling at her. She changed her story about her cancer cells killing her. And she was able to go into this relaxed state, a different brainwave state. And she had this idea, this visualization that her cancer cells were smiling at her. I did a session with a family and had them all lay with their heads close together. And that was for a reason, did the session, left the home, and the mother remarked, our kids are listening to us better after the session. So they were all in a different, instead of fight or flight, instead of wanting to do battle, which families do and kids do sometimes, they were listening better. So again, that mom probably had a story, my kids don't listen to me. My kids aren't going to listen to me. So it's really about unveiling that story that you have about yourself and changing your perspective. So any questions or comments? Because that may have been a lot for people.
Well, I'm going to put up Celia's comment here.
Okay.
It says, good morning. I've been thinking of yoga because I'm so stiff. I need to get my youth back.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is a match. Then Jay says hello.
Hi, Jay.
And what you're saying, if you had a head injury, do you know that affects the brain?
Okay. Let's start with Celia, and then I'll come back to Jay. Celia, what I would recommend for you, number one, do something that is easy for you to do, that's affordable, with someone, even if it's on YouTube, with someone that you can relate to. Otherwise, you won't keep up the practice. Yoga Nidra could be helpful for you with the stiffness because it relaxes down your nervous system. So you could be, for example, even just your thoughts every day could take you into fight or flight. When we're in fight or flight, we're responding to noises, we're reacting to experiences, we're reacting to even thoughts in our head. You're reacting to your own stiffness. Even right now, as Celia, if you take your attention to your shoulders or to your hips, if I could talk to you, my guess you would say is, oh, my shoulders are really stiff. Yeah, it's really, really stiff, especially right here. Oh, my hips are stiff. If you can relax your story a little bit, and I'm not saying that your stiffness is not true, but if you could notice how much attention you're putting on it and put more attention on relaxing the shoulders or even moving the shoulders, your story about that stiffness would change. And then there's a physical element. If you go to a yoga class and do some movement, if you come and do Yoga Nidra, there will be a physical change in your muscles, in your cells. Something simple, Celia, and this is not Cecilia or Celia? I'm sorry.
Cecilia.
Cecilia. This isn't Yoga Nidra, but simply breathing and an inhale and raising the shoulders and an exhale and dropping the shoulders will help work on that stiffness. You're using your breath, and the breath is also bringing awareness. You could even say something like, I'm noticing that my shoulders are stiff. I'm noticing that my shoulders are stiff. And continue doing that until you notice a looseness and until you notice that maybe you don't want to say that anymore. So a lot of people might say, inhale and exhale, my shoulders are loose. I don't feel my shoulders. But the fact is, you're highly concentrated on the stiffness of your shoulders. Go ahead and notice that. Don't try to go the opposite direction. Go, okay, you know what? My shoulders aren't stiff, because the reality is your shoulders are stiff. And that is what is on your mind right now. So physical yoga could also be helpful. Again, just make sure you find a practice that is safe for you and doesn't make the stiffness worse. Okay. And then Jay's question was, if we could put it up again, I believe it was a brain injury or?
Let's see, here it is.
Because if you have a brain injury, if you have a head injury, yes, head injuries do affect the brain. Again, I'm not a doctor. There's a lot of research on everything from concussions. It can really depend on where the injury occurred physically in the brain. For example, in the amygdala, there's a part of the brain that all that part of the brain does is respond to fear. There's different parts of the brain that have to do with our thinking, that have to do with smells. So when people have strokes, for example, part of their speech may be affected. The processing in their brain may be 100% fine, but they can't get the words out. In dementia, for example, the brain is affected. So a head injury, I would say, yes, your brain could be affected. It would take an expert to figure out what's been affected. Yoga Nidra is still safe to do with a head injury because all you're doing is relaxing the brain. You're not processing. You don't need to process as much as you normally do. So Yoga Nidra will not hurt anybody. Someone with a brain injury or head injury will probably have a different outcome, but you can practice this safely. But again, I think the question was with a head injury, could your brain be affected? And absolutely, but an expert would need to help more with that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I don't see the question. Oh,
Jay has another one. Yes, a head injury could cause depression. Everything because it affects the way the brain works, the signals that are sent out to the body. There's something in our bodies called the vagus nerve, and it's the longest, I think the proper word would be interconnected. It's the longest nerve throughout our body. So it's not a single nerve. It almost looks like a tree turned upside down. And the brain sends out signals to eat, signals to sleep, signals to be afraid of the correct things, signals to smell. So if you have a head injury, absolutely, that could be a piece of depression. But again, you need to consult an expert. Yoga Nidra, if that was a question, will not cause depression. It can be helpful for depression.
Okay. Wow. So say that sentence again, Jill. That last sentence.
Yoga Nidra could be helpful for depression. And Yoga Nidra cannot help you because all you're doing is relaxing down your nervous system and deciding what thoughts you want to have. There's a very much an expert, Dr. Richard Miller, and he actually has developed a different style of Yoga Nidra specifically for PTSD in veterans, and it's called iRest. It's a small I, capital R, and then EST. And he does this specifically with people who have severe PTSD. So his style is a little bit different. When I have people who come in and they may say, I'm really, really nervous. I'm a pretty anxious person. Normally I have people close their eyes. I'll tell them, go ahead and leave your eyes open. When I do this with children, for example, they're in a room with me. They don't know who I am. They may be with their parents. It may be a little scary for them to close their eyes. I'll tell them, leave your eyes open. If someone comes in and says, you know what, I know this is about laying still. I have restless leg syndrome. I am not going to be able to lay still. I just say, do the best you can. If you have to move, go ahead and move. 99.9% of the people don't move, but I don't add on to their story. I don't tell them, well, this isn't going to work if you don't stay still. So I think, Terry, where you're going is my comment about Yoga Nidra won't hurt you. There's nothing that will hurt you. All you're doing is relaxing down your nervous system and getting rid of the stories, letting the stories kind of pass by and pass through.
Okay. Now, Brenda put this comment about it. I think she wants clarification. She says, Yoga Nidra can help you with depression. Yes. Pardon? It sounded like you said it can't.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, I don't want to give. Thank you,
I was
Brenda.
trying to get clarification.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to be a medical doctor. What I will share is people who have come in experiencing depression feel a sense of relief, and they can verbalize that to me. And it's because it brings about blood flow in your body. And again, sometimes depression, there's a physical element to that. And also, as you start to recognize and peel off these stories, it can give you motivation, for example. It can give you focus. It can even kind of give you the wherewithal to address the depression. Because in depression, sometimes you just want to pull the covers over your head. Sometimes it's I've heard people say, for example, excuse me, I know if I got up and I took a shower and I went outside and felt the sun on my face, I would feel better. but I feel like my bones are too heavy to move. It feels like it's too much to raise my hand, to turn the shower valve on, to get in the shower. Okay. So in Yoga Nidra, if you are able to either get to someone or have someone come to you, the beauty is I can go to people's houses. It doesn't work, I would say, quite as well over the phone because you're not with someone. But in depression, it's that sense of it's just too much to even think about addressing this. And in Yoga Nidra, you lay still and you listen. You know, if you're severely depressed, even listening takes some effort, but it's a pretty helpful practice when you're really just too depleted and you can't even, again, you know you need to focus, you know you need to make a shift most of the time in depression, and you just can't. It's just too much. So yes, I'm going to say not in a clinical perspective because I can't, I'm not a medical doctor, but I have seen Yoga Nidra help people with their depression.
Okay. We have some more comments here. This is Kathy. She says, what are the general health benefits of regular practice?
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, Kathy is a regular at Yoga Nidra and also took my teacher training, which wasn't easy for her. She's a mom, but she really was excited about seeing what the training would do for her. And Kathy has been practicing, I know for sure, 30 days straight, probably at this point, about 35 days straight. So with a regular practice, and Kathy, feel free to type in any comments on what you're noticing, 30 days straight of Yoga Nidra on her own, 30 days plus, most people see an increased focus. So maybe, for example, those of you who are running a business, because this is Biz Chicks, in Biz Chicks, there are a lot of presenters, and both Terry Francine and Robin talk about structure. So maybe there's the prompt to sit down every Wednesday for 30 days and work on your business plan. Wednesday rolls around and you're like, well, it's time to sit down and work on my business plan, but the sun's shining. I'm going to go outside. Oh, look, I think I'll make these phone calls. Yoga Nidra will help you stick to that plan. We said at the beginning, and I did remember, it does help with memory. For the next 5 to 6 days, most people feel an increased sense of wellness. They are sleeping better at night, and their sleep patterns have gotten better. So maybe you're sleeping straight through the night. You're sleeping deeper. You might be remembering dreams. So an overall sense of wellness, better sleep, more focus. Even though you feel very relaxed coming out of it, there's just this sense of a soft focus on things and an awareness. Oh, I realize that even though I'm going through chemotherapy, I have a different perspective of that. Even though I'm starting a business and I have no idea what I'm doing, I had this sense of asking for help from people. Again, in my case, I still have a little bit of that story of, oh my gosh, I don't have the voice for this. But more and more often before I start a session, for example, I'll sit down and I'll say to myself, I can't wait to use my voice to help people in the room. So again, clearer focus, more motivation, a sense that you can stick to things and do them. Just almost anything that is curbing or in the way of those, or getting rid of those self-defeating habits. Physically, it can help you in the sense that, there's increased blood flow, your nervous system is relaxed down. It's not going to necessarily make you more, limber or able to stretch, although I did have a runner in the class and she came in with her hamstrings tight and she didn't tell me that. And she literally kind of hopped up. She's like, what did you do? What happened to my hamstrings? And I was concerned. I said, I don't understand. Like, what happened? She's like, look. And she starts doing these hamstring stretches and she's a runner. She's like, where did the tightness in my hamstrings go? I'm like, I don't know. Apparently you were able to relax the hamstrings. So thanks. That's a great question about the general health benefits.
Now, Jay has a comment here. She says, so interesting. I was listening to to a doctor who said psychologists not taking an image of the brain to help with depression caused the brain to affect my, what does it say, thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like, Jay, maybe a doctor or a psychologist has refused to do any type of brain imaging, saying, and I hope this is correct, saying, it's just in your mind. You can definitely have things on your mind that are heavy, but I think too often people are told it's just in your head. Mm-hmm. So, Jay, what I would encourage is if you have that instinct that there is something going on with your head injury, or you're not able to resolve it with the current doctors you've gone to, or the current practices, keep finding a doctor who will listen to you. Because now, and I say the word story lightly, it's not a story that you have a head injury that's real, but now the doctors are helping or hindering you going off on another story of, well, a doctor's an expert. They said it's in my head. I must not be depressed. This must not be serious. And that may not be true. So it's hard with insurance. It's hard emotionally. But Jay, please keep finding a doctor or someone who will give you what you want and address what you need. Otherwise, it becomes a story that you shouldn't worry about this, and it's all in your head. And that's not going to be helpful to you. So if I understood you correctly, it sounds like a doctor is saying, oh, don't worry, we don't need to do an MRI, or we don't need to, brain map you. Please find somebody that can explain more clearly if you need help in that way with your head injury.
Okay. And then Francine, hey Fran, our producer says the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
So we're able to rewrite our stories. Is that part of what's going on when we're relaxing?
Absolutely. And Yoga Nidra specifically, the relaxing part is to kind of let the stories go by the wayside, and not literally, because I'm not saying it scientifically. You're giving more room in your brain and your thoughts. When your brain is full of, well, the doctors say it's just in my head. I have cancer. I have too much to do today. I don't know how to do this. There's no room for possibilities. And your brain, your body believes that. So when you say, oh my gosh, I'm so busy, you start acting like I'm busy. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. There's not room for possibilities. In Yoga Nidra, by design, you relax the body, and then you actually go into the Yoga Nidra state when you are imagining something different. So you see yourself not being busy. You see yourself having clear conversations with people. You see yourself with a beautiful voice. Then your brain and your body responds to that. Those are the true possibilities. The busyness, I can't, all the stories is covering it up. That's why I said literally like tearing up the pages. In a book, there's a lot of pages. If you don't know what's on those pages, it's detrimental. So we're not ignoring the pages or ignoring the words, but this is a practice where we're going, Jill's asking me to just imagine my shoulder. Maybe the pain isn't that bad, or yeah, maybe the pain is that bad, but what's my story about it? So simply relaxing doesn't 100% help you change that story, but going into different brainwave states where you're more creative and you see those possibilities, and when we're in our normal self walking around in the world, we're just very normal people. And we're nervous, we're agitated, we can be hopeful about things, but we forget hope this isn't confusing. We forget what's deep inside the real book. And it's just these pages. It's just all these things that we hear and that we're told, that we see on Instagram, that we've been told since we're little. It's like, what's your true story? Your true story is your whole. Your true story is your perfect. Meaning, yes, you have problems. You don't do everything perfectly, but who you are is not imperfect. And that crosses all like religious, spiritual teachings, all of it. There is nothing wrong with you. There might be something wrong with your physical body. Yes, you have a head injury, but just because you have a head injury, you are not less than, if that makes sense.
They are rolling in now. Let's see here. It clears my mind of little thoughts to make way for bigger issues.
Yeah.
It makes space, says Dory.
Nice. Thank you, Dory.
And Jay is saying, the doctor said they don't have the technology yet. I don't know where Jay is. Jay, could you type in and tell us where you live? You know, what country or states or what you're talking about. And then Kathy says, it helps you let go of the mind chatter, negative thoughts, and situations. Francine is famous for this. She calls it the drunk monkeys.
Yes. Thank you, Kathy. And again, that letting go, I want to make it clear, is not ignoring, but it takes your focus off that and takes the focus within. And then sometimes you just say to yourself, wow, I'm having mind chatter. I'm having that monkey mind right now. Isn't that curious? And then you go on, not my mind's cluttered up. It'll never be uncluttered. I'm sure no one else's mind. And then you're writing another story on top of another story. And so you're like, wow, there's a lot on my mind, period. What do I want to do with that? Thanks, Kathy.
So I have a comment. So it seems to me that yoga nidra would be anybody depending. So you may want to go in just to relax and just experience it. You want to go in because you have something that you want to work on specific, or you may want to go in just, and then you discover, oh, you know, maybe I got this issue, so it's like an way, you know, some of these things. And I would imagine if you go regularly, then you get better at the practice. I would suppose.
Absolutely.
But like I would go in and just say, well, I don't think, but then who knows? I may be peeling off a bunch of issues that may help me in the future. So everybody could benefit.
Yes.
You know,
they really can.
Have very many physical issues versus somebody that may want to work on physically. So that's that. Absolutely. I think that's the beauty. And the thing on presentation is when you're laying down so you don't fall over. I just love that because
that's the purpose.
You know,
that's the purpose.
Yeah.
And during exactly. Yeah. You get, your body gets so relaxed. So I offer other services, like sometimes a corporation or a business will ask me to come out, or a school. With a school, usually the kids are okay laying down. But I do some different practices sitting up where it's more of just the relaxed state, but you don't go into the yoga nidra state. And I know we're getting close on time. Robin, I did want to mention, it's curious that you talk about peeling off the layers. Part of the dialogue in yoga nidra is your body is like an onion and you're peeling off those layers. Go ahead and peel off another layer. So we're, again, tearing up the pages, peeling off the things that are covering up our wholeness, covering up who we are.
Okay, I want to get these last comments in.
Okay.
We can. Is that okay, ladies? Okay, let me show this one. This is from Brenna. Let's see, Jay Lee. In my experience in dealing with medical professionals, you have to call your concerns something more severe in order those practicing medicine to take action and rule out or provide info about your concern. Okay. And then here's Brenda Lee. She's saying, my yoga nidra practices helped me to reduce the stories that I was telling myself. It has given me the ability to be more present and to respond to my daily life with clarity. I love that.
Nice. Thank you, Brenda. And Brenda is also, she just came to my training and is starting to teach. She did a lot of different helpful therapies, and she's now teaching as well.
And then, so Brenda says she loves this. This is our last comment, Robin.
Do we want to go to the comment and then
Yeah,
wrap
this
up?
is the
Okay.
it says, I found I was holding some issues about my dad's passing. It was an amazing release for me, and I am now at peace with his passing. That was last year. He's been gone for 8 years. So she
Thank you,
said it
Dory.
helped to refocus.
Oh,
Thank you, Dory.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually,
the next class,
did a
sure.
Okay. I wanted to share real quickly too. I did an additional training too, and I actually offer yoga nidra for families and people who are passing away, and it's called Yoga Nidra Graceful Transitions. Again, to help you adjust and respond to transition. So the next class, I generally do Sundays and Thursdays, every other Mondays, and then I'm available by appointment. This Sunday coming up and the following one, I will not be around. I'm actually have some family things to do, and then I'm traveling again. The schedule can always be found on my website, which will pop up later. Also on Facebook, it's pinned to the top of Facebook, and then there's an app called Mind Body. And you can see the classes all the way through March and I think April. And I have a couple events coming up, collaborating with quite a few people.
In the comments later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some events coming up in March. There's a group I'm collaborating with, and it's going to be a half day of just wellness and attention for bridesmaids. And then in April, Maureen Stevenson and I, who's been on the show, we're doing a tea and pajama party for grown women. And that will be a whole 4 hours of yoga nidra, craft teas, and actually a lot of quiet time. And then going into the late spring and summer, I'll also be co-hosting some retreats for people. And also an event at a flower farm where you get a chance to come out and eat good food, relax, be outside a little bit on a flower farm.
Sounds interesting.
Yes. So thank you for having me today. Again, whether you're watching live or on the replay, I hope this has been helpful.
Yeah, it's very, very, and it's a really great reminder. And the other thing that people need to know is that Jill's prices are so reasonable because she wants to share this everybody. So, people just need to check it out. Just
thank you.
Check it out. At least very, very, it's wonderful. And I'm going to get back into it. Absolutely.
And I just want to say
Jill.
that,
it's always
there are a lot of myths surrounding yoga. I want to say that it is emotionally safe. And
absolutely.
There's no woo involved. And so you can trust this source. And as Robin said, so check it out. Don't be scared. It's good.
Thank you.
So with that, Robin, who's going to be on next week? You want to give us a little preview, or you're going to keep that close to the chest?
Next we have Linus is going to be with us next week. I don't know, but she always brings us a lot of wisdom. So Linus Woods Mullins will be with us next week.
Okay.
Well,
sounds
thank you
like
very much. You want to thank you so much. We'll get you back on the show as soon as we can. You're busy teaching and doing all that, but we will get you back hopefully. So I'll schedule the future. Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Francine.
That's wonderful. I just want to say it's good to see you, Robin. And it's good to have you back. Jill, thank you so much for your time. I want to remind everybody, and Francine, thank you. She's just always doing such a great job there in the background. My partner, Miss Francine Gregory, real estate entrepreneur and tech diva, because tomorrow we are talking tech and English on the Biz Chicks. So don't be scared. Come on in, find out some tips and tools on how to run your business better and how to use the things that will make it easier. So with that, we want to remind everybody, don't forget, to go to the front of your own line, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.